Armchair.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
Why did you get so drunk?
You got drunk. I'm just really exhausted.
What's in that cup?
Rum and Cokes?
Do you have any idea how important this is? We're trying to save the pump cup. Really? This is what you're doing? This is what you're doing?
Chief, what do you want to do tonight?
The same thing we do every night. Try to take over the world.
106 miles to Chicago. We got a full tank of gas, half a pack of cigarettes. It's dark, and we're wearing sunglasses. Hit it.
Armchair.
YouTube Live?
Radio station.
The radio station you can call your own. Do you know what listeners like about our station?
I like everything. It's always on my radio.
We never stop the music, except for now, when I talk.
Full of snacks. The All-American Man.
Hey, howdy, hi, and how the hell are you? Sorry for the audio problems. Did not know that the mic was muted. We do apologize as we come in here on a Tuesday, and a Wednesday, and we're getting ready for Brian to join us. And we will be here momentarily with him. Before that, going to get you caught up with what's going on in the world of Major League Baseball as the Atlanta Braves are playing right now. If you're watching it on the screen, you see that the Braves are trailing 3-1 against Tampa. Once again, another one of these games that are not televised. Really think it's a really poor job by them to not be doing these games at all. Like between Tampa and Atlanta and Minnesota, I'm trying to think of who they were playing right before then. None of these games have been televised. It's really hard to get fans into it. Now, you have had some games on ESPN and you have had some games elsewhere, but all in all, I think Major League Baseball does a really bad job of televising these games and getting the fans into. I see a lot of comments throughout social media on a daily basis, people trying to find the game. They're not realizing that it's just there's no cameras there. It's not that it's being blacked out in your area. There's just no cameras there. It's a really bad job by Major League Baseball, and they've got to get that cleaned up. With that being said, news came about that 17 teams, and we'll get more into this down the road on the show, but 17 teams are not going to be are going to be broadcasted by Major League Baseball in some shape or form. So they had to put a team together, essentially. And that's where we're at on that. And that's where we have, with Major League Baseball, they added an entire division. 3 executives were hired this week to be able to take care of that. And that is going to be an absolute disaster if you look at the fact that if they can't get it organized, 17 teams affected, and it's because Bally Sports is going out of business. And then the other one, I think, is Warner Brothers. They had 3 teams. Bally Sports, it was Diamond Vision or something to that nature was the name of the actual company that controls Bally Sports. But Bally Sports has obviously been an absolute dumpster fire, and they lost a ton of money on their NBA revenue, which is what caused this. And now they don't have any money to get to the post for the baseball season. And so basically NBA has bankrupted the Bally Sports, and it'll be interesting going forward because they're going to have to go back out there and renegotiate contracts, the NBA, Major League Baseball, et cetera, et cetera. It'll be interesting to see what happens to the overall dollar amount, because the next ones that step up, they're going to be kind of in a position of power and saying, look, basketball is what bankrupted you. If you want me to carry your basketball team, and we're talking about in the local markets, we're not talking about TNT, et cetera. We're talking about in the local markets, they're going to go to the Post and say, look, we carried your product this year. Nobody watched it. We couldn't get advertisers. What are you going to charge me now to carry your team? And we're not that far removed. It's only been 40 years where basketball was never on regular television. It was on tape delay only. Now, I don't think we're headed back that direction with all the streaming, but you do wonder if it's going to be regularly available to you, or will it turn into a situation where you only get your national broadcast and a lot of your local markets won't have the games. But right now, Major League Baseball, the Braves have scored. It is in the bottom of the 8th in the spring training game against Tampa Bay. Score is 3-2, and we'll keep you updated on that. We are going to take a really quick break. When we come back, Brian Snow is going to join us, and we are going to be talking a little bit of what's going on, some big things going on in the NBA and around Major League Baseball. We're going to get into it here in just a flash here on Braves Country and Braves Country HD, wherever you stream. Keep it locked in here on The Key.
What about the assistants on the staff right now? The guys that were there in training camp, the guys that were there early in the morning and late at night, the guys that have gone through the first 6 weeks in that building. Don't they deserve the opportunity for an owner to hire a coach who's never been an assistant at the college level or the pro level, and overseeing a lot of candidates that are qualified for that job, as we see in Steve Wilkes, an opportunity to build a resume? It's a disgrace to the coaching profession. And regardless how this thing plays out, what happened in Indianapolis is a travesty. What about the assistants on the staff right now?
I might audible. If I audible, I'll use Omaha! Omaha! Red Polly! Blue Poncho! Dilly! Rambo! Give me Kershaw here, Kershaw!
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Sports Radio.
Top, Japan! Richmond, New York! Richmond, Florida! Sally, Buffalo! Check! Hey, Short Ox! Luda Raiders! Red Lion! Omaha! Time out!
Hey, can I tell you one thing? That's 3 holding builders on one football team and a quarter and a half. That ain't funny.
This portion of the show is being brought to you by Ed's Almost Good Beer. Remember, Ed's Almost Good Beer was brewed in God's country when God wasn't looking.
It all starts with just one thing. When recycling, rinse out jars and cans, and avoid recycling wax paper or paper soiled with food. This will reduce recycling contamination. Find tips and more at onethingus.com. What's your one thing?
The Armchair Quarterback's on YouTube Live. We cover Braves baseball and the rest of Major League Baseball every day. Subscribe and like us today. Your first choice for sports talk live from the First Coast.
Whenever I bring home Entenmann's Little Bites muffins.
Little Bites?
That's right, sweetie. Can you just give Mommy a minute?
I love Little Bites.
I know you do, but we're doing a commercial right now, okay?
Got it.
As I was saying, whenever I bring home you know what, you know who gets pretty excited. And so do I. Little Bites muffins are made with real ingredients, no high fructose corn syrup, and are baked moist and delicious.
I love Little Bites.
Here you go.
Yes.
Entenmann's Little Bites muffins. The perfect portion of happiness.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia. Welcome back, Braves Country, and it must be Wednesday because good friend Brian Snow is here with us, and you catch Brian every single day here on The Key at 5 p.m. Eastern. Brian, how the hell are you, sir?
I'm doing great, my friend. Great to be with you as always.
We've got a lot to get into, a little time to do it. I do want to hit up one thing real quick. I'll get more into it in the second hour. but the college baseball top 25, we're going to touch on that a little later. But we've got so much stuff to get into this hour. We're going to pump that off to the next hour, because probably the biggest story in sports today, I can't think of a bigger one, is that Kevin Durant's going to debut for the Suns. Or he's supposed to.
Yeah, you just
He
said
doesn't load managed.
supposed to.
Wouldn't that be something if he comes out? Because you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and take tonight off because I want to keep myself fresh for the playoffs. They are. I don't have it in front of me, but aren't they playing the Hornets?
I believe so.
Yeah. So I like how they cherry picked a bad team for his debut. Right?
Why are we not surprised?
I'm not. I mean, that is pro sports in a nutshell, right? You make a big trade, you want to showcase him, you want to make sure that he's not going up against, the Celtics or the Bucks or something on the first night.
Or God forbid, the defending world champion Golden State Warriors.
Right. Well, it's kind of hard to call them that now that they're a walking dumpster fire. But KD and the Suns, the perception is that they're the team to beat in the NBA playoffs, right?
Wrong. Not for me.
Okay, are they at least the team to beat in the Western Conference?
No.
Okay. I'd love to hear where you're going with this one.
My sentence is simple, and you'll hear, and I'll lead off with this at 5:00. My sentence is simple: to be the champs, you must unseat the champs. And last I checked, Golden State's the champs. So until you beat them 4 times in a series, Phoenix is not a threat. And the other reason I think Phoenix is not a threat, his name's Devin Booker. Is he going to play nice? Is he going to let Kevin Durant be the leading scorer on the team, or is he going to want to hog the ball as well?
Now, the one strange thing about the Western Conference, as I just pulled up the standings, looking at the bottom, because it wasn't too long ago that Golden State was down around the 10th seed, right? Now they're sitting at 5. But though they're sitting at 5, they're only 2 games in front of the final playoff spot. So any kind of a losing streak by the Warriors could derail them from even making the playoffs, or they could end up in the play-in round.
True.
I'm with you as far as thinking that someone's got to beat Golden State, but I do think someone's going to beat Golden State. I don't necessarily think it's going to be the Suns in the West. I know a lot of people are kind of skating past them because their lack of success, though the regular season success is real, their postseason success has not been there.
Right.
The Denver Nuggets are finally healthy. And assuming that they can stay healthy, which is the big thing, because they've had the injuries. It seems like they always get some big injury right before April, and it's just like, well, there they go again. They're a nice story, but that'll be it. Denver to me is the team to beat in the West. I'm not a believer in Memphis, even though they are kind of my secondary team. I've always pulled for the Grizzlies from all my time I spent in Tennessee. I can't believe in the Grizzlies. Just seem too raw, too young. But what about the Sacramento Kings? Do you have any belief that they could get into at least the Western Conference Finals?
The wildest of the wild cards is the Sacramento Kings, and the biggest reason is Mike Brown. Mike Brown to this iteration of the Kings is what Rick Adelman was to the Kings of 2002 when they got screwed in the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers. I don't believe in Memphis. Like you said, they're too raw, too young. Denver is the number 1 seed, ... for now. But I still believe to be the champs, you have to beat the champs. And as crazy as this sounds, once they are whole again, I can't see anyone beating the Warriors 4 times in a series. Now, there's a lot of jockeying to be done. There's a lot of teams that could get healthier, even healthier by the time the playoffs start in April. But I'm old school, and I just think you want the title, come get it.
So one of the most interesting things about this is the NBA obviously has built their brand over the stars of the league,
Yep.
and not the fandom. There are very few out there, percentage wise, that are diehard fans of a team anymore. They tend to follow they tend to follow the stars.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in that very small minority. I've been a Boston Celtic fan for 40 years.
Right.
Even through the bad times, I'm like, yeah, they're my team.
Yeah.
They may never be on TV. I may never watch them,
Mm-hmm.
but that's my guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And they continue to be. But I understand that most fans over the years, they kind of gravitate to the teams that are winning because of the stars. So you saw it in the 80s. It's kind of when it started, when Bird and Magic kind of gotten old and to the point of retirement. That's when people started shifting over to Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
And Jordan goes Kobe to LeBron to whoever your favorite player is, right?
Right.
I think it would be a nightmare to the NBA because their numbers have been so bad. It would be an absolute nightmare if those Kings made it, because I don't think your average sports fan, much less NBA fan, can name two guys on the current Sacramento Kings. If you ask them to name Sacramento Kings, like the first name out of their mouth is probably going to be Chris Webber, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be an absolute nightmare. Can you imagine a Memphis Grizzlies Sacramento King Western Conference Finals? The Nielsen ratings would be in the negative.
Yeah. The Nielsen ratings would be in the toilet, but for those of us old school fans that love team basketball, it would be it would be the greatest thing. It would be the greatest thing. Here's a Western Conference final that may happen. Kings and Warriors, the battle for Northern California. And
But that would be a snore fest for most fans. If the NBA wants to build on brand, they're hoping for Suns and Warriors, Suns and Mavs.
Suns and
I
Lakers.
guess Suns and Clippers, but not really. The Clippers don't have the draw that the Lakers do.
The Clippers are done.
And what are we, like 4 seasons removed from Kawhi's?
Yes.
It was 2019, wasn't it?
The Clippers are finished. Okay. And I've heard so many people predict the Clippers to come out of the West this year. And my question is, why?
I'm not buying that they're going to be able to win 3 series on the road, which is what it seems like it would be.
I'm not buying them to win 1 series.
Right. Right now, they would be, if it ended today, and we still have 20 games left in the season, but if it ended today, Clippers would be at Sacramento, and I think Sacramento would probably take care of them. Even if they slip past them, I don't see them beating Memphis.
No.
I darn sure don't see them getting to the Western Conference Finals and winning the Western Conference Finals.
Nor do I.
Denver, they're not beating Phoenix. My biggest question with Phoenix is, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to lead off with it, KD starting tonight. They're sitting there at 50, 60. So they literally have 20 games left. Okay. Is that enough time to get the chemistry down between KD and the rest? I know he's played with CP3. I get that, but that's one guy, right? Is that enough time?
No, there isn't. It's not enough time. It's not enough time. And some folks are going to make the excuse to me, because I cover the Warriors for my website. And you're like, well, it's not going to be enough time for Steph Curry when he comes back from an injury. The Warriors had Steph Curry for 14 years. They've got such an advantage, big time advantage. And I'm not just tooting the horn of the Warriors. I'm just going off of what I've seen before in the playoffs. I'm going off of what has happened before. I don't trust Memphis.
I still think of Steph Curry as like a young kid, but he's not.
No, that's the
an old fart at this point.
Yeah, that's the most wonderful thing. You think, okay, Steph is like in his 2nd or 3rd season. This is his 14th year, and he's still playing the way that he's playing.
And those injuries are mounting for the Warriors because I think of their age and how many times they've made those runs in those playoffs. I'm not a believer in the Warriors this year. Not that they can't win the first round, and not that they may be even able to get out of the second round.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know if they can put together 3-4 consecutive best of 7 series without the injuries popping up on them. And I don't think this team's as good as the one last year.
The
And
injuries,
I know it's probably an understatement.
yeah,
but
it's a war of attrition. And given the fact that the Warriors are now the elder statesmen of a team in the league, and you got young teams like the Nuggets and the Sacramento Kings coming for them, and they are coming for them. You're right. One major injury and the Warriors are finished, even going forward in the playoffs. And they're dealing with that one major injury right now to the straw that stirs the drink and Stephen Curry. But I'll say it again, and this is based on 40 years of watching basketball. To be the champs, you must unseat the champs. Your Celtics went through it in 87. They weren't whole either. And yet they came out of the Eastern Conference. They weren't supposed to be nowhere near the Eastern Conference because a young up-and-coming coming team at that time, the Detroit Pistons, were on the verge of stealing Game 5 before Larry Bird took care of that. So can it happen? It most certainly can. I've seen it happen before.
It's been since February 4th with Curry?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
What is the prognosis on him?
Couple weeks.
Still?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's a tall task for the rest of that group to be able to hold on to a preferable seed, right?
Well, last night
I'm not worried if they're going to make one of the top 10 seeds. They'll make one of the top 10 seeds.
Yes.
But you don't want to be in the bottom 4.
No.
And I don't really think, considering the way it's probably going to shape out in the Western Conference, I really think the one to get is going to be somewhere around the 4 or 5. You know, a 4 seed would be phenomenal for Golden State because they would get the first round at home, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If not, I'm with you on the Suns, though I think they're talented. And I think next year they're going to be a real force because they'll have a whole season to put KD and company together.
Mm-hmm.
I would be shocked that's why you don't see a lot of these big trades in the NBA workout, because they come out of the break and it's about 20 games and it's not a lot of time.
And it's a sprint to the finish line.
I've said for years that the NBA trade deadline needs to be bumped up, but they try to coincide it with the All-Star break now because Silverman's bending over backwards to appease the players union.
Yep.
But when you have this trade deadline, and let's be honest, nobody wants to trade their guys until the trade deadline because they're all, especially now that everybody in the league makes the playoffs in one shape or form, nobody wants to just give up on the season.
Mm-hmm.
20 games, man, that is a sprint.
Exactly.
What do you think he'll probably play? At best 15? Because there's no way they're going to play him every game.
10 at best. I give him 10. I give him 10 because Kevin Durant too is in his 14th year.
If he only plays 10, it's a wrap.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way that they're going to get any kind of cohesion. I'm not saying that he can't have a big night here or there in the playoffs, but they can't make a deep run with. That's why I thought it was laughable the day the trade happened. The betting favorite in Vegas in some books was actually the Suns, but they moved at least to number 2 in some books.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what are we talking about?
You saw that too?
Yeah. Like what, why would you even consider putting your money on a team that's been okay this year, pretty disappointing last year, and they add a guy who is still elite, but 20 games is 20 games.
And 20 games is not enough time. I mean, if you look at it from the top of the season, 20 games, you're just like really getting into your cohesion. Unless you sprint out of the gate knowing what you have, knowing how to use them.
The trading deadline in the NBA has got to be moved.
Yes.
to somewhere in January, and I'm going to say mid-January.
Yes.
Who cares if it's before the NBA All-Star break? Nobody watches the NBA All-Star break anyways. So who cares? But it's going to give you more time to make these moves. I don't know if there's something in the players union that they're wanting it where it is, other than the fact that when the trades are made, a lot of them don't show up to their team until after the All-Star break, right? But
man,
I can't imagine there's something else involved why they don't want to be traded before then. And if you're really wanting to win, it's different when a team like the Celtics or the Bucks or whatever, and they add these little tiny pieces, right? Role players. But Kevin Durant, look, we've seen it before with Harden. He gets moved around like they don't do anything, right? It doesn't matter where you send them.
You can move Harden like a chess. You can move Harden like a chess piece or a checkers piece, and it doesn't work.
Yeah, it really is dumbfounding. The other thing is, and then we're going to move on from the NBA. Got two more things I want to hit real quick. First of all, the LeBronless Lakers. Any chance they make the playoffs?
No.
Yeah, I don't think they are either. They're currently, where are they sitting at? A game out of the final playoff spot.
And it's going to get worse.
And there's actually a team in front of them. So they're in 12th place, not in 11th. And he's out. They're saying 2 weeks are going to reevaluate. He won't be back. At best, he's back with about 5 games to play.
If that. So I'm willing to bet you he's going to make a business decision and hang it up for the rest of the year.
I'll tell you
because remember, he made a vow that he wouldn't. He made a vow that these last 23 games, he said this a while back, these last 23 games are the most important games of his career. Well, he's not acting like it.
They're not even going to be. He's not even going to play them.
Nope.
They're going to be the most important games of the Lakers franchise. Because if I'm running the Lakers, I say, no, man, we're going to tank and we're going to try to get the best draft pick possible.
Exactly.
And we're looking to send you on your way. As we don't want a big PR nightmare, but we're ready to get rid of you. Right?
It's a PR nightmare when they signed him in 2018, but that's just
right. But you know how the Lakers are. They think they need to have stars.
Mm-hmm.
They want to move on without it being an ugly situation, much like Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Green Bay's ready to get rid of Aaron Rodgers, but they don't want to tell everybody they want to get rid of Aaron Rodgers.
I say the hell with that. Push the plunger and get rid of him and deal with and let the chips fall.
And Rodgers is even a bigger difference when he's meant that much to your franchise for that long. It's a little hard to just, because there are the psychotic fans, a good group of them, big group of them, that are going to just be outraged if you come out and say we're done with Rodgers, time to kick the can. And same thing with LeBron, because there are delusional Laker fans that think that if he can get healthy and they can get in the playoffs, they can make a run.
Yeah, there are a lot of delusional Laker fans, and most of them are called bronsexuals, but I'm not one to gossip.
Most of the Laker fans that are the most delusional are in their front office.
Genie butts.
I mean, what was the Westbrook signing about? The hell was that? I remember when they signed him, and they're like, "Oh man, they're putting together a super team." Go, yeah, super sucky team. What are you talking about?
You had a chance to get a young Buddy Hield and a chance to make a deal for DeMar DeRozan and allow him to come back home, and you let LeBron get in your head to tell you all we need is Russell Westbrook. What the hell were you thinking?
I can tell you this, as a Celtic fan, I've never been happier.
I can tell you this as an NBA fan. I've never been happier.
He's still not going to win a real championship. Don't give me that bubble ship. That thing does not count. They're still behind the Celtics in overall championships.
Push the.
They're going to try and say, "Oh man, we tied you." No.
That championship does not count.
Of course, it doesn't.
That championship does not count.
Of the bubble that counts, and it barely counts. It's more of a half a ship that I will call, was the Super Bowl, because that was the closest thing to the actual sport that they did, because they did travel, they did go into, even though some of them were half-filled stadiums, that's the closest one. The rest of those championships in 2020, I do not count, not one iota.
Nor do I.
Maybe the college football, because they did actually play in front of fans. But baseball, that was an invitational.
And the NCAA championship in 2020 that didn't even happen. It was the championship in 2021 where they housed everybody in Indianapolis. That was a nightmare.
Yeah, and then when you go back to the NBA 2020, that was an AAU tournament, is all that was. And then
That's the way you can describe it.
And then the NHL, that was another invitational. The only reason why the championship for the Stanley Cup meant more is because the Lightning went on to win again, so it kind of cemented it, right?
Yes.
By the way, it is a final. Braves came back and tied Tampa Bay 3-3 was your final. And we'll talk more about that later in the show, but I'm going to go ahead and get that off the screen. I like to share the score here on our Braves Country HD when the game is going, because folks were wanting to know. But hey, it really is maddening that they're not putting more of these games on TV.
It's sick.
Not just the Braves. I'm talking about across the board. If you're not a Yankee fan, a Mets fan, a Dodger fan, you haven't seen many of your games on TV this year.
I haven't seen any of mine yet.
I've only seen, to that point, I think I've only seen the White Sox on twice, and I've got the MLB.TV, right?
Yes.
And I actually pay attention to it, especially now that you're on the show all the time. I'm actually, keeping an eye on the White Sox. I'm like, they're never on. What is this?
They're not. They're not the Yankees. They're not the Dodgers. They're not the Mets. They're not any of these household name teams that move the needle, as the phrase goes. And I'm like, really? You're talking to a guy that basically covers the White Sox, and you're not going to put their game on? And I had planned to do a couple of spring training games, and I haven't had a chance to yet because they're not on. I guess they're just waiting for an old broadcaster like me to whet the appetite come top of the season.
Real quick on the scoreboard, Yankees are tied with the Nationals 2-2. That game is the ninth, bottom of the ninth. I think game's about to end. The Yankees are threatening, but there's 2 outs. Red Sox, Astros finishing a tie 4-4. Mets over the Marlins 8-4 in the ninth, and I'll get you caught up on more of those as the day goes on. By the way, a game that's actually being televised: Angels and Milwaukee 4-2 Los Angeles, bottom fourth. I was watching the ESPN broadcast of the Yankees Nationals leading up to the preparation of the show today. Man, I mean, it just gets worse and worse.
Is it that bad?
ESPN's broadcast, it's so bad. And I don't even know what they're trying to do, but they're not trying to bring baseball fans in. That's all I can say.
No, they're not. They're not.
I don't even know who the extra guy was, because I recognize Kirchin's voice and I recognize what's her name, Mendoza. And then the lady, I can't think of her name right now, but she was doing some MLB radio during the playoffs. The 3 of them, and the latter, I believe she was on the field, but there was basically a play-by-play guy. I didn't recognize his voice. It wasn't their normal guy, Boog, and it wasn't Matt Vasgersian. So I don't know who it was, but he was a cornball.
I don't even pay attention to ESPN baseball anymore.
No,
I can't even watch it.
It is brutal. It's
ever since they got rid of John Miller and Joe Morgan.
Oh, geez.
Do I need to say any more?
Did the Yankees just hit a walk-off? The Yankees just hit a walk-off 2-run shot, and I'm loving that because I did take the Yankees on the money line today. to watch it for, I only put $10 on it, but it was like a -195 on the money line. I was like, what the heck? How can the Yankees not beat the Nationals? And I keep watching this game. I was like, my God, nobody's playing. But I don't know who that was, but someone just hit a 2-run shot for the Yankees just over the glove of the Washington right fielder. And you win a car if you know that guy's name. the fifth string right fielder for the Washington Nationals. I'm seeing if I can find the actual score of it. Let's see, here it is. Oh, it was Navarez. 3 happy feet over the wall. And I do know that particular wall is 352 feet. So that thing just got over it.
Oh, wow.
So,
man, oh, man.
There's that.
Yes, there's that.
Let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into more of this. And I haven't forgot about it, Brian. We are going to talk about these red hot Knicks and could they be a thorn in everybody's side? We'll be back in Flash here on Braves Country and Braves Country HD, wherever you stream.
I got back to the hotel at 7:30 this morning, and I went up to the desk to leave a wake-up call for 7 o'clock. The lady goes, "It's past 7. No, the next one. You got another one coming around, don't you? Why don't you just put me on that one?"
Tom has been a teacher for over 40 years. One day, I think one of the students had asked the question and he didn't remember the answer. And I also noticed that he was letting his class out earlier than they were supposed to let out. I was really starting to worry.
Levi and I talked about how it would change our lives, but he was there beside me.
When something feels different, it could be Alzheimer's. Now is the time to talk. Visit alz.org/ourstories to learn more. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neal, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Fridays, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
Winter is the perfect time to start planning for your healthy, pest-free spring lawn with True Green, America's #1 lawn care company. True Green's science-based approach and local expertise will help give your lawn the year-round care it needs to be thick and weed-free. Go to truegreen.com/radio to save 50% on your first service. Just call 866-946-5956 or go to truegreen.com today and get a lawn to be proud of.
Hey folks, this is Mark White with The Mark White Show, and you can tune into The Mark White Show every Saturday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. right here on Rock 99 WQEE The Key, the home of Southern sports and talk.
I, one of Barney's best friends. Promise never to interfere with his personal life again.
Promise never to interfere with his personal life again.
Unless it's an issue of health, national security, or he's about to get up on a fatty.
Unless it's an issue of health, national security, or he's about to get up on a fatty.
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The All-American man.
Welcome back, and we do have some news that I just saw scroll across the bottom line. They're saying, Brian, you're going to like this news, that Steph Curry could be back next week. They're not putting it in stone, but they're saying,
right.
Yeah, you're telling me there's a chance. Him coming back, to me, is not as crucial of a timeline as KD getting it in gear with the Suns.
Right. We talked about
Warriors are the Warriors, and they're either going to be good enough to win or they're not going to be good enough to win. Nothing's really changed, even though he took a few weeks off. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But by the way, the Rangers, Keandre Miller suspended 3 games for that incident the other night for spitting, and Tyler Glasnow is going to be out 6 to 8 weeks with an oblique strain.
Ouch.
These injuries in Major League Baseball are just absolutely mounting.
Yeah, they are.
Gavin Lux tore his ACL
and gone for the year.
This is how I knew. What game was I watching? It was ESPN. They were going into depth about how I don't know if it was today's game or if it was the one from a few days ago, but they were going into depth during the broadcast about the Dodgers losing Lux on ACL. And their take was they're going to have to really go out there and get someone in the open market or make a trade. And I'm like, hello, they made a trade for Miguel Rojas about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go and look it up. I was like, did something happen to Rojas? Did he get hurt? No, he's fine. He was playing that day.
He was playing. Yeah.
I'm like, ESPN. You're just moving people around who probably don't even watch the sport.
And my next 3 words are the following. Consider the source.
Yeah. What is your background? I've done lacrosse my whole life. Well, we're going to put you in the booth today. Talk some Major League Baseball. Yeah. If that's the case, then just have the guy call the game and don't let him do any commentating during it. Don't have him think whatsoever. Right?
Exactly.
Most play-by-play guys, you put them in most sports and they can find their way through it. But just don't ask them for their opinion. Have 2 or 3 people in the box there with them so he's not being asked to actually think.
Yeah, to actually observe what's going on. And actually
it'd be the equivalent of dropping me in the middle of like a Division III women's basketball game saying, hey, can you do the game? Yeah, I've called basketball before, but I'm not going to talk about what's going on in that conference. I'm going to literally give you the play-by-play of what's going on, and I'm going to keep kicking it back to whoever's sitting next to me going, yeah, man, this ball is in your court.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The Knicks. Speaking of courts.
Wild card.
They are slowly but surely becoming an interesting story in the NBA. And for folks who have been asleep at the wheel, not paying attention to the long, long season, they are now on a 6-game winning streak and number 5 in the conference. They've already leapfrogged Brooklyn, which I don't think anyone's shocked by that. Brooklyn.
Thank you. Who's going to be shocked that they leapfrogged Brooklyn? I mean, Brooklyn already pushed the plunger on the season. They already pushed the plunger on the season by getting rid of Kevin Durant.
And what's funny about that is, had Durant came back at this point and they had not traded Kyrie, they were actually a fairly dangerous team, right?
No.
I don't think they would have won the title by any stretch of the imagination, but they were a dangerous team. I mean, at one point they'd won almost 20 games in a row, whatever it was. I mean, this was a good basketball team when healthy, but they never could. Right. But had they kept them together, they probably could have pushed into maybe the Eastern Conference semifinals, maybe if things broke their way, even the Eastern Conference finals. But now you're going to start seeing them plunging down.
Mm-hmm.
And Atlanta now has an outside chance of getting out of the bottom 4 if they can catch Miami. Because I don't even look at Brooklyn being there. I look at Brooklyn's eventually going to sink to the bottom.
Yeah.
They may hold on to the last spot in the playoffs, but I don't call the playoffs 7 through 10. I say the playoffs begin once we get through that.
Once we get to 1 to 8.
Yeah. I don't even know what they're calling it. I call it the round robin week, but just whatever. Once they get through that junk, then we're in the playoffs.
I literally last year when my wife asked me, are you going to watch the play-in round? No, I'm not. I literally slept through that because I was just coming off surgery and I was just getting back into doing broadcasts and doing sports and things like that. That's a sleep week for me. That's my spring break.
I can't remember. See, the NBA regular season shows here. When is it ending this year? Because when I'm trying to
started way early this year.
All right,
it started way early.
Yeah, so it's ending April 9th, Sunday, April 9th. Ooh, actually, that's a weird one too, because they normally end it on like a Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, and start the playoffs that weekend.
So I guess what they're trying to do is they're trying to get the play-in games knocked out during the early part of the week because they found out nobody's watching them. They found out Brian's asleep; he's not watching the games. They're going, you know what? We'll play the Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday game, and then we'll be ready for the weekend.
Yeah,
so I think that's the weekend after the Masters. But man, that's right smack dab in the middle of Major League Baseball. It's shortly after the March Madness. Yeah, I don't see me watching the play-in rounds. If Atlanta's in there, I'll pay attention.
Let me ask you this. Your thoughts on Nate McMillan being fired? That's a mistake.
Yeah, I think it's a huge mistake, but I also think it's one of those, man, the NBA coaches, they get fired all the time. They get recycled. People complain about NFL coaches get recycled. NBA coaches get recycled.
Big time.
Millen will get hired within the next year, and he'll get a 4-year deal. Once you get into that club, you're a made man.
And the Hawks now have Quinn Snyder as their coach.
Yeah, I don't even know what to make of it, because we talked about this on your show last night, that with the way it's set up and with the way that the players kind of rule the roost nowadays, it looks like Trae Young wants out of Atlanta. If he wants out of Atlanta, then what are we even talking about? Like, Quinn Snyder got hired to get fired as well.
Yes.
Because once you trade away Trae Young and he's demanding a trade, and here we go again, blah, blah, blah. That'll be one of the storylines in the offseason. They're not going to get any kind of compensation that's worth his talent. And it's literally starting over again. And I haven't really caught on to why he wants out, other than maybe he's like a lot of these players where he wants the easy road, right? He doesn't want to play on a team that he's going to have to build himself. So he's choosing to being asked to be, from what I've heard, he wants to go to New York. He wants to now. I don't think that means the Nets. I think he wants to be a Knickerbocker.
He wants to play with the Knicks.
Right.
Because he played against them in 2021.
Oh yeah.
And
there was smack talk on the social media
and the allure of playing with the Knicks, I'm looking at you, Jalen Brunson, is just too strong.
And I think the Knicks would love to have him. The question for me for Atlanta is, what do we get out of it? Do we get anything? And I don't think we're going to get much.
You're not gonna get much, because it comes down to a simple
They
question.
might get Barrett, RJ Barrett, because
might be an operative word if the Knicks want to part with him.
Well, to be able to lock up the other guys, I think that would be the smartest move. And not that RJ Barrett's a bad player, but you're not going to be able to franchise it. You're going to have to get RJ Barrett and picks.
Yep.
And you got to be able to talk someone to coming to Atlanta. Just do that. What you got to do is scour the NBA social media and say, figure out which one of them is a big baseball fan and would like to spend the offseason watching some Braves games.
Watching Braves baseball.
Like, come on now.
Watching Braves
man, it ain't that bad down here. Come on. But it's just it's frustrating as a lifelong fan of sports. I grew up as a big NBA fan. Over the last decade, I've lost the interest that I used to have. I used to die hard, man. I mean, I did not miss games, and the load management had a lot to do with it. But
it's like you said. It's like you said Tuesday on my show. Curb the fandom. They want to load manage. Actually, your exact statement was, if you want to load manage the games, I'll load manage my fandom.
Which is what I do. Like tonight, I will probably, and I'm going to put this as a big probably, watch some of the Celtics Cavs because it's on national television. But not if I go to Celtics Twitter a half hour before and find out that 3 of the 5 starters are sitting there. I'm like, then I don't care. Right?
Exactly. And it just seems that the NBA has gone that way, that stars don't care to play.
And there's too much college basketball to consume. And there's actually some good college baseball that's going to be on tonight. In fact, tonight there's a couple of baseball games that I'm actually going to have tuned in, and I've already picked some college basketballs games to be financially invested in. Those are going to have my eye.
Yeah.
You can talk me into coming to Celtics Cavs by halftime, but not if I flip over there
and
I see,
and it's a blowout. And
I see
the 5 starters are not playing.
Jaylen Brown in street clothes.
Which you might
Tatum in street clothes.
Which you just might see.
Yeah, so that's, but if they don't fix that, I mean, franchises like the Hawks are going to leave Atlanta one day. Fans are going to get tired of it because First of all, Atlanta's a good market, so it's not like there's some reason why you wouldn't want to play for Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
But just because you're being asked to build something, I mean, what if that were the case? What if the NBA had that same culture when Dominique Wilkins was here?
Well, I'm glad
Right?
they have that culture.
There's a whole generation of Hawks fans that grew up watching Dominique and Spud.
And Kevin Willis.
That was the next the big old arm pad. Yeah, Kevin Willis. And, you don't just give up on your team, but that's what we're teaching kids nowadays. When the going gets tough, give up.
And we're also teaching kids nowadays about participation trophies instead of earning the championship.
Well, that's what the 2020 bubble ship was. It was a participation.
It was one big fat participation trophy. One big fat participation trophy.
It was a big one.
It was a big one. It was a big one.
When they won the championship ish, 3 or 4 days, we were doing a show, and it must have been a football show. It must have been one of our kickoff shows.
Mm-hmm.
It came up in conversation, and finally I looked over at one of the guys I was like, who won that, by the way? I don't even and he's a Miami Heat fan, so he told me, because, well, the Lakers won it. He thought I was giving him a jab.
Right.
No, I was like, man, I didn't even watch it. I tried to watch one game, and it was just so bad with no fans in the stands, those goofy screens that were in the background.
Oh, my God.
And they were trying to make you think that it was a fan experience by putting Zoom televisions. I'll be honest with you, I liked the paper fans in Major League Baseball better than because the television screens were creepy to me. At least
those Zoom televisions made me get away from Zoom once and for all, quite frankly. Because you think about it. I've been a play-by-play announcer for 27 years. I'm used to seeing crowds. And I was living in North Carolina at the time. And when they basically pulled the plug on the season, I pulled the plug on the season.
I've never been that depressed for that long of period of time in my life. And I know that's sad, but that's how big of a sports fan I am.
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing a daily show in St. Augustine, Florida at the time. And we went to the morning that we found out about it was like a gut punch.
Yes.
And we did the show. It was a Thursday because everyone was canceling college basketball tournaments left and right.
Yep.
And by that Friday, Major League Baseball had canceled.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't do the show. That was the only time we've ever not done the show. We went to a recorded deal that I put together that morning, and that's the only time I've never done a show. I've done a show every single day of what was Armchair Quarterback Radio and now Braves Country, and that was the only day. And I couldn't stomach it. I was like, man, there was like a depression that came over me. And you knew they were shutting the world down, so you couldn't even go, well, I'll just go out somewhere and do something. No, you can't.
You couldn't even do that. I mean, like I said, we lived in North Carolina, and
screw you, Rudy Gobert. I still
thank you. I mean, we were living in North Carolina, and we were called essential workers because we were working for Amazon at the time.
Yeah.
And I looked at Jody, and she looked at me, and I looked at our daughter Sonia, and we're going, how are we going to navigate this? Well, we're going to go in and kick some butt. And I'm like, all right.
Yeah, it was just absolutely
brutal. It was horrid.
Sports, the one to me that was the best to watch was baseball, because you don't see the crowds as much.
Mm-hmm.
And then football, once they started getting fans back in the stands, it was okay. But the baseball was brutal, and the hockey was brutal because you could hear the echoes, right? You could hear them. Where can folks find you each and every day, Brian? We're hitting the top of the hour.
YouTube.com/@Snowman Multimedia for all of my programming, and you can catch Snowman in the Morning and the Brian Snow Show here on WQEE 99.1 beginning at 5 p.m. Weeknights. But catch me on YouTube, and you can catch me on audio replay all across the country.
All right, brother. We'll see you next Wednesday, and I'll see you on the Snowman Show next Tuesday at 5.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Sir. Have a good week.
Thank
We'll
you.
be back in a flash here on Braves Country and Braves Country HD wherever you stream. You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia.
Armchair. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good afternoon, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. College basketball Wednesday, wall-to-wall action, 6:30 Eastern on FS1. Xavier is at Providence. At 7 on the Deuce, the Round Ball Iron Bowl, Crimson Tide hosts the Auburn Tigers. While the Big South tournament gets going, that can be seen on the Plus, along with the Northeast Conference tournament. Pittsburgh's at Notre Dame at 7 on the U. The red-hot Vanderbilt Commodores travel to Rupp Arena to take on Kentucky Wildcats. 7 Eastern on the SEC Network. Creighton hosts Georgetown on FS1 at 8:30, and the OVC gets going this evening with 4-game schedule. A couple of decent late tilts on the Plus. 9 Eastern, Grand Canyon at Southern Utah. And Tulane travels to East Carolina on the U at 9. Good one on ESPN tonight in the association. The Cavaliers travel to the Celtics. That game is at 7:30 Eastern. The back end of the double dip, Pelicans at the Trailblazers. Other games of interest, Nets at the Knicks in a battle for Gotham. And the Lakers are at the Thunder at 8 Eastern. While the 76ers are in Miami to battle the Heat. Major League Baseball spring training, your Atlanta Braves tackle the Tampa Bay Rays. That game is at home in Northport, Florida, Cool Today Park. Other games of interest, Nats at the Yankees, Red Sox battle the Astros. While the Cubs host the Mariners in Mesa, Arizona, Phillies are at the Twins, Blue Jays at Orioles. Mets and Marlins clash in Sarasota, and the Dodgers are at the Rangers. Tampa Bay Buccaneers plan to release running back Leonard Fournette, a key contributor in their Super Bowl 55 victory. The move will happen before the start of the new league, March 15th. Fournette told the Tampa Bay Times that he asked for his release and that there's, quote, no bad blood, unquote, between him and the franchise. He added, quote, winning is everything. That's all. And in my last 3 years here, that's all we've done. But since my guy, Brady, left, and that's why I came, so my time here is up. Tennessee Titans general manager Rand Carlton speaking Tuesday about evaluating the quarterback position for the Titans, Ryan Tannehill. Quote, he's been a diligent worker, been in the building every day rehabbing and getting his work in. So he is under contract, and I'm excited about moving forward with him and have a ton of respect for Tannehill. The Titans have $9.8 million in cap space. Tannehill has a $36.6 million cap number this season. The team could save $18 million in cap space by cutting the veteran quarterback. There have also been reports that the New York Jets are interested in possibly trading for Tannehill, especially after naming former Titans offensive coordinator Todd Downing their passing game coordinator. Fernando Tatis Jr. on Tuesday played his first game for the San Diego Padres in nearly 17 months. Tatis went 0 for 2 with a walk, a stolen base, and a run scored in a 7-5 win over the San Francisco Giants in spring training in Arizona. Tatis was quoted as saying, I saw that it was 500 or something days since I was out there. Since the beginning of spring, I thought about this. Tatis missed all of last season. He was about to come back from wrist surgery when he was suspended on August 12th for 80 games after testing positive for PEDs. Tatis blamed his positive test on a cream he took for ringworm. He had surgery on his troublesome shoulder during the suspension. The shoulder and wrist are 100%. Everything feels good. With 20 games left to serve on his suspension, Tatis won't be eligible to play in the regular season until after April 20th. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for Braves Country right here on WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia, simulcasting on youtube.com/BravesCountry.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Fridays, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
It's time to live, laugh, and create memories again with MSC Cruises. Join us on some of the world's most modern and innovative ships. Discover again at our new private island, Ocean Key MSC Marine Reserve, named Best New Cruise Destination. Cruise the Caribbean and Bahamas from Miami or Port Canaveral. Book now with free balcony upgrades and flexible booking changes. Call your travel advisor or visit msccruises.com. Restrictions apply. MSC Cruises, a world of discovery.
Tuesday, March 7th, 6:05 Eastern, first pitch. Braves Country is bringing you Atlanta Braves, Boston Red Sox, pitch by pitch, inning by inning, from Northport, Florida, at Cool Today Park. Red Sox versus Braves broadcast will begin 6 Eastern, first pitch delivered by 6:05. Catch all the action right here. Make sure to like and subscribe. Braves Country HD. youtube.com/@BravesCountry for Atlanta Braves baseball all year long.
Here's good news. There's still a need for hundreds of thousands of cybersecurity professionals in the U.S. right now. And My Computer Career is training people to help meet the demand. No IT experience? No problem. Take the free career evaluation today. Start your new life as an IT pro in as little as 4 months. Grants covering up to 53% of the cost are available to those who qualify. It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu.
They've given me less than 1 year to turn this place around. Forget about the way it used to be. This is not a damn democracy. We are in a state of emergency, and my word is law.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. He's the all-American man.
Welcome back. Hour number 2. Just got news that Justin's not feeling good. He's a little under the weather, so I told him to take the day off. We're going to talk some baseball. We're going to talk some college basketball. What you're seeing on the screen there is awaiting a fantasy baseball draft if it happens, waiting for the room to fill. If it doesn't fill here in a little bit, I'm just going to dip out of it. But doing the underdog, if you are wanting to jump in on that, it is on the Underdog app, and it's the $5 30-second draft. So if you're looking for it, it's whatever one is in there, $5 30-second draft. I'm sure there's probably a number on the actual draft itself, but been waiting here during the break. I'm not seeing it fill up much, so I might have to abandon ship, but we'll give it a few more minutes before we give up on that. Let's go ahead and get into some college baseball. Now, there are games today. In fact, right now, you've got Tennessee Volunteers starting off number 3 in the land. They are at home against Charleston Southern. And number 24, Texas Tech, they're up 8-1 at home against Air Force. NC State, number 21, they're losing to Radford in the 4th inning. Most of these are being broadcasted on the Plus, but some of them are blacked out if they're in your region. It's just the way the broadcasting rights work. Here we got a good one in Atlanta. Kennesaw State, just right down the road from Georgia Tech. They are at Georgia Tech today. Kennesaw State leads 1-0. And Kennesaw State had a nail biter last night. Not how many folks caught that one, but that was a heck of a ball game. I had them on the money line, took them and Duke on the money line because I didn't feel good about them covering the spread, especially once I saw that the jockey had taken them minus the points. I was like, there's no way, man. There's no way they're going to cover. And once again, he didn't cover. He's still talking smack about the Braves on Twitter. I'm like, whatever, dude. Focus on the fact that you don't win very often. I mean, this guy, you got a better chance of throwing a dart and hitting a winning team. But the game last night, if you missed it, it came right down to the wire. They had a lead, and a pretty, I'd say, comfortable lead. Anytime you're up 6 or 7 points, I think it was 5 or 6 points late in the game, and I'm talking about late in the game, under a minute left, it's a fairly comfortable lead. And Queens University ended up scoring. Kennesaw State was missing free throws, and Queens was hitting deep shots. And the next thing you know, it came down to the wire. The last play, Kennesaw State missed another free throw, excuse me. Queens got the rebound and went the length of the court in 3 seconds, chucked it up at the buzzer, and just missed, which would have been a shocker because Kennesaw State, in my opinion, is the best team in the ASUN this year. They do move on and get the W, and a big win as they're trying to punch their ticket to March. Kennesaw State will move on to the next round, and I don't believe that game is today. I think there's a travel day. So I've been scrolling for that particular game, and I don't see it on the docket unless they've taken it off the board for some reason. We keep looking for that, but I'm pretty sure that's how that's going down, because in these smaller conferences, they don't always play back-to-back because there's travel, because there's not one venue that holds it. And really is a shame that these smaller conferences don't get together and find one university that is able to hold it in their conference and build up when you think about a conference tournament coming in, just from the teams alone, but also the fans that would come and the staffs and whatnot, you're really helping out the local economy. Kennesaw State is at home tomorrow. So another game in the ASUN. This will be the semifinal. They're at home tomorrow in Kennesaw against Lipscomb, and that'll be 7:00 on the Plus. And the other side of the bracket, the semifinal of the ASUN, it's going to be Liberty, who cruised in their game last night. They're at home against Eastern Kentucky. And the winner of that, the winner of those two games will meet in the finals. And I believe that will be on Saturday because they're having to take another travel day. So that's what you got going on in college basketball here locally. As far as college baseball, real quick, wanted to hit up some of the games that are going to be going on tonight in college baseball around the South. Number 6, Florida is hosting JU, Jacksonville University. I watched a really good, and I've seen it on for a few times, but I've never sat down and watched the thing. I watched there's a documentary on CBS Sports Network that plays randomly. They'll play it like around noon Eastern time. Maybe it's 11 a.m. I don't know. But I've seen it on from time to time. I'm usually working or whatnot. But it was in my recording, for lack of a better term, my DVR box. And I went in and I watched it last night. Phenomenal. It's a 1 hour, of course, with the commercials. You fast forward through, they had 40-minute little documentary that CBS Sports put together on the 1970 Jacksonville University Dolphins, who ended up being a Cinderella for folks who are way too young for that. They ended up playing for the national championship against John Wooden's UCLA team. Wooden's UCLA team was in the middle of their dynasty. They'd won 4 consecutive national championships. And that was in 1970. And you just kind of get to learn a little bit about what was going on in the Southeast at that time, and especially down here on the First Coast. And it was a neat documentary that they put together. I was familiar with a lot of the players that were on that team because they've just been legends in this area in North Florida, South Georgia for decades. But it was a really well put together documentary. I think it's called Jacksonville, You Can Do It. It was something like that. It was some cornball name. But despite the name, it was a really good documentary. And anyways, Jacksonville University is playing Florida tonight, and that's on SEC Network at 6. At 5 o'clock, South Florida's at number 16, Florida State. And let me see if there's any other games in action of interest around here. Auburn's at home against FAMU at 7 on the plus. And looking at the Division I top 25, if you haven't paid attention, I think it's early in the season. Most teams are only about 7 to 9 games in. But it's always good to take a look at these and where are the teams in the Southeast this early in the season. LSU is still number 1. They have lost a game. They were 3-1 last week, but they held on to the number 1 spot. And this is the D1 baseball. I know there's a few others, but this is traditionally the one everybody goes by. In fact, even if you go to ESPN.com, it's the one that they share to you. But LSU's sitting at number 1. Tennessee is 3. Ole Miss 4. Wake Forest 5. Florida and Vanderbilt are 6 and 7, with Arkansas 8th. And East Carolina, another good team this year, they are sitting at number 9. Other teams in the Southeast are ACC, SEC. Virginia Tech is at 11. North Carolina 13. The Louisville Cardinals are sitting at 14. And Texas A&M 15. Florida State 16. Virginia 19. And Alabama is number 20. They're 8-0. Number 20. They haven't played a tough slate yet. Miami is 22, and South Carolina is 8-0. They're at 23. And so there. I think I missed NC State. NC State is sitting at number 21 at 7-0. So those are your Southeast Atlantic Coast teams, and one other team in the Southeast of interest, Southern Miss, is in at number 25. Now they've already dropped 2 losses. They were number 18 last week. But all year so far, it has been predominantly the LSU Tigers have been a top. Tennessee, Stanford is always traditional power. They're sitting up there at number 2. Ole Miss is an interesting story because Ole Miss has been coming on the last few years, and they're sitting up there at number 4. So you've got some good teams in the SEC and a few in the ACC this year that are all sitting in the top 25. Should be some good clashes. The scoreboard, real quick, just updates you. Tennessee's up 3-0 in the first, and Ole Miss, Louisiana Tech, they are scoreless. That game just got going. Georgia Tech is giving up another run. Kennesaw State is leading that game 2-0. So keep you updated on that as it goes along. I've actually got that game on one of my monitors and paying attention to it. So there you have that. I don't believe this draft is going to happen, so I'm about to give up on this. Everyone's, well, you know what? We've got, all right, there's still 4 to be filled. We'll see. I'll give it a few more minutes. If it doesn't happen, then I'm going to go to something else. We're trying to set up a fantasy baseball live draft, but it really comes down to whether or not people will come in and join this on these best ball drafts. If you haven't done one before, you draft a guy, you don't make any pickups, you don't make any trades, you just draft, and the computer figures it out the rest of the year. So all you do is try to draft for depth. All right, let's go ahead and get into some Major League Baseball. A lot of things going on. One of the things that has gotten me interested is this story that has come out that I believe yesterday is when the story originally came out, that Major League Baseball is having to put together, basically it's an on-the-fly committee to govern over 17 different teams who are being affected by Bally Sports filing for bankruptcy. They have not paid their bill since, I think, January. And the other, I believe they said it was Warner Brothers, but I'm not 100% positive on that. There was 3 teams that weren't Bally Sports, and there's 14 teams that are. One of the teams is your Atlanta Braves. So with all that being said, we could be affected in Braves country, though Major League Baseball is saying that they're going to make sure all of the games get played and all of the games get televised. Because what a logistic nightmare that would be if you had 17 teams out there who routinely were not on television. So Major League Baseball is going to step up and they're going to figure it out, basically. But they had to put together a group that was going to run the day-to-day operations. Not like it's going to just run itself. And so they want to make sure that everything goes smooth this year. And then during the off season, I'd say that they're going to start looking for companies to come in and purchase the rights to the different teams. Now that'll get interesting to see where all these teams go, mainly the Atlanta Braves, because there's no guarantee on who, first of all, who's going to buy the rights, and B, how is it going to be available? Is it going to be a situation? Remember at one point Bally's was talking about purchasing just Bally's Sports, your local app, and being able to do that. And in fact, they implemented it in some of the markets. But it was obviously a disaster because they didn't make any money. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with all these teams that did not make it. Now, if you're wanting to know, well, other than the Braves, who else didn't make it? There's a bunch of them. I've got a list right here. Here we go. Now, the 3 teams that were not Bally Sports were the Rockies, the Astros, and Pittsburgh Pirates. And the way they mention it, they said it was WBB and ATTP, and I'm not sure if that was all together or if they were separate entities, but Rockies, Astros, and Pirates were affected. And then the Atlanta Braves, the Diamondbacks, the Reds, Guardians, Tigers, Royals, Angels, Marlins, Brewers, Twins, Cardinals, Padres, Rays, and Rangers, Texas Rangers, all are affected by this. The other question I think a lot of us would have is, well, if Major League Baseball is going to carry them, are you just going to be able to get the MLB package? And if so, will it get blacked out? And all those nuances. So it's a sticky wicket the next few weeks that these 3 gentlemen were brought in to run this division, and they all have experience in this type of work. But man, you're talking about putting it into a crunch to make sure that you get daily broadcasts. This isn't even something that was relatively simple as, we'll say, like a football broadcast, right? Because you're talking about most of the games happening on a Sunday and you get it organized and away you go. This is a daily broadcast, and they're going to have to make sure that not only are the games being broadcasted and that the fan can see them, but that every employee involved is getting paid, because Bally's is just sticking their head in the sand and saying, whatever, dude, not paying our bills, filed for bankruptcy, is what it is. And so it is a logistic nightmare right now for Major League Baseball. And this all happened. I don't think anyone was aware this was going to happen. They put the bankruptcy filing in, I believe it was early January, and Major League Baseball has just been trying to catch up. So you think about all the things that are going on in Major League Baseball with the pitch clock and the bases and the shift and people complaining about this and that. And I don't know if I like it, and I do like it, and et cetera. And then on top of that, they're having to deal with, oh, by the way, how are we going to even be able to see these games? So it is a nightmare, and they're putting it together, and God bless them, because hopefully it all gets figured out, and the fans of all these teams will be able to consume their games like they've always had. By the way, Georgia Tech has scored a run. That game is in the bottom of the first. It is 2-1 Kennesaw State. Georgia Tech is 8-0 on the year, currently unranked in Division I on the D1 baseball top 25. Kennesaw State is 5-1. I did see where Georgia Tech is ranked in one of the polls. Like I said, the D1 baseball poll is the one that everybody typically, it is basically the AP poll is what it is of baseball. I don't think that this here draft is happening. So we are leaving that. I'm getting that thing off the screen. I've given up. It is an absolute set there for, what was it? How long was I on there? 20, 25 minutes, and they didn't get it filled. That is a strange one. All right. We're going to take a really quick break. When we come back, we've got a lot more to cover, including Southeastern Conference, college basketball. Some big games took place last night. Some big games taking place this week. Which games do you care about? Which ones are actually worth watching? Because we're just a week away from the conference tournament. We'll be back in a flash here on Braves Country and Braves Country HD, wherever you stream. Keep it locked in here on The Key.
Stupid interviews. Hey, you're a member of the Buffalo Bills. How does it feel?
Well, it's a blessing. I want to thank God. I'm going to try to do my best. It's a great organization. And I'll say the last 80 guys said. So, yeah.
Hockey season, and that means new merch over at OurDragonsMerch.com. Get the latest designs and some of our fun new souvenirs ahead of what's sure to be a great hockey season. Celebrate another season of River Dragons hockey by getting a new look to wear on game days, or surprise the big-time sports fan in your life with a new keepsake that will make them a River Dragons fan for life. Order online right now at OurDragonsMerch.com. That's the letter R, DragonsMerch.com. We'll see you at the rink.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neill, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Fridays, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
Dixie Handle Company, 5 generations of the Strickland family have produced quality hardwood farm and garden tools, wooden shutters, and custom furniture. This small business has been owned and operated since 1992 and ships to customers across the world. If you're looking for the highest quality tool handles, Dixie Handle Company is your place. Every item is hand-picked to your specifications. If it's made of wood, they do it. Call now, 931-722-3395. That's 931-722-3395. Or go online to DixieHandle.com. The Dixie Handle Company. Welcome to Craftsmanship, a proud sponsor of Braves Country Baseball. Welcome back to Braves Country. Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks. Weekdays, 3 to 5 p.m., drive time on WQEE. All right, let's go. We're just over. We're 29 days away from opening day. We're in March, baby. Gotta love that. Rather than what is, even though the Super Bowl is in it, February is the worst possible month for a sports fan. We are into March, which means March Madness is around the corner. Opening day is almost here. Spring training has arrived, and the conference tournaments have begun. Now, it's the smaller conference ones. And only degenerates like myself care about them. But the Power 5 conference tournaments will be beginning next week, where you'll have the SEC tournament, the ACC tournament, Big Ten, all of them, and then even the minor ones that are just below the Power 5s, they'll be going on. And the SEC has got a couple of big games tonight. Well, you know what? I'll say one. If there's only one game you can watch in the Southeastern Conference tonight, it's 7 o'clock Eastern, Vanderbilt, Kentucky. That's a game right there. Kentucky has snuck back into the top 25. It's a big, big game. They're a 10.5-point favorite at home against the Vanderbilt Commodores, and that is my lock of the night. I'm taking the Vanderbilt Commodores to cover the spread. Vanderbilt has slowly worked their way into the conversation of the NCAAs. Those boys from Nashville, since a blowout loss at Alabama, have absolutely turned it around. They beat Ole Miss, number 6 Tennessee. They went into Gainesville and beat the Gators. They went on the road to beat South Carolina. They beat Auburn. Lost to LSU, and you hate that loss. But then they came back and swept the season series against the Gators. And tonight is a big game for the Vanderbilt Commodores. If they could get this win, look out. But they've got this game tonight, and then they've got the Mississippi State game on Saturday. Now, that game will be in Nashville. That game is a 8:30 game on SEC Network. But Vanderbilt has been playing very, very well. And they are one of these teams that I think has gone under the radar for a million reasons. I mean, first of all, they started off terribly. But they have been leaning on this kid Liam Robbins. He's a senior, 7-foot senior. He's averaging 15.5 points a game and 7 rebounds. I do believe that he's going to play on the next level and be a solid contributor. They're going to be looking for him to dominate tonight, and they're going to need him to have one heck of a next week and a half of basketball. They are sitting right now 16-13 overall. So they still have some work to do. But they're 9-7 in the SEC. If you can get a win in Kentucky, take yourself to 10-7, and then finish it off 11-7 in the SEC, I really think they only need 1, maybe 2 at the most wins in the conference tournament to seal the deal to get them into the March Madness. Now, number 2 Alabama is at home against Auburn. Obviously, Alabama doesn't need that win. But if they want to stay on the 1 line, I'd say it's a pretty significant game for them. And the controversy that has been just swirling around that program, I do think it has affected them to a degree because they're not winning with ease against teams that they probably should be. But they're still getting the wins. And right now, they're being projected as the top overall seed. Right now, North Carolina is being projected as the last team, the first team out. And Arizona State Sun Devils, if that miracle shot the other night, is the last team in. Teams on the bubble right now. The first 4 out, meaning they need some W's in the worst way to get back into the line, and they're going to need some help. North Carolina, Oklahoma State, Clemson, and Michigan. The 4 teams that are sitting there just in the line, meaning if they were to lose, they could easily drop out. Mississippi State, they've got a couple of big games. Mississippi State, Boise State, Wisconsin, and Arizona State. The next 4 teams that are looked upon as, they're calling them the last 4 byes, meaning that they don't have to play in that. When you're considered the first 4 or the last 4 in, you're expected to have to play that first couple of days, or a strong possibility that you may have to. So the first 4 teams that are considered as wouldn't have to play that, it goes in order. Auburn, who's at Alabama tonight, Nevada, West Virginia, and Memphis. I still don't see how Memphis, with a losing record in their conference, is being considered. And I know the Big 12 is really good this year, and I get that. But if you have a losing record in your conference, do you really deserve a chance at the national championship? I see the comment here by Lane. Go ahead and hit this up real quick. Says, how do you feel about the Mets? Look, I think the Mets are going to be one of the more interesting teams this year because of a couple of reasons. First of all, I don't think they've gotten better. I think at best they stayed where they were. They lost DeGrom, but they added Verlander. And I know a lot of Mets haters or Mets fans who hate DeGrom can say what they want about DeGrom, but when he's on the field, the guy's very impactful. In fact, he was the only guy that won the playoff game last year against the Padres. If you remember Scherzer and Bassett, everyone has been killing Bassett in the offseason from the Mets side. They keep forgetting Scherzer got thumped in game 1. So they're leaning on those 2. I know it's just a spring training game, but Quintana came out yesterday and he got hammered in his first appearance. Now, look, I think Jose Quintana at this stage in his career is a number 4, number 5 starter, and that's about it. And you're looking for him to eat innings. But when your top 2 pitchers are 40 years old and have faded down the stretch, and even though Verlander's coming off the Cy Young, if you paid attention to him last year, Verlander did stumble down the stretch, and excuse me, he was on fumes in the playoffs. Now, that's how good the Astros were. They didn't need an elite Verlander to win the World Series. They got it done anyways. But with all that being said, the Mets are not that good where they can just have an okay Verlander and an okay Scherzer. Scherzer, this is 2 Octobers in a row. 2. The Scherzer has failed on the big stage. If you remember, he got bopped around in the NLCS in 21 and then had dead arm, couldn't even make his next start. And then last year got popped by the Padres. So that's concerning. Do I think they're going to be really good in April and May? Yeah. Because they're elite pitchers and they're some of the best pitchers we've ever seen. But the only thing that matters to Steve Cohen and the Mets is what are they going to do in October? Does that mean you have to manage their innings? Well, if that's the case, and you're relying a lot on Kodai Senga, who's coming over in the major leagues, and when Senga comes on, now I know he had his issues in the at the very beginning of spring training, but he looks pretty sharp. I think he's supposed to make his first start Saturday or Sunday this week. When he goes through the Major League Baseball the first time around, I'm going to assume he's going to look really good and he's going to be hard to hit. He's got something called a ghost fork that's supposed to just drop off the table. But when Major League Baseball players make their adjustments and see him for the second time through, and it may take a little longer because you're not playing everybody 19 times. But when they see him that second and third time through, that's going to be the difference between whether or not Senga is elite or not. And we just don't know at this point. Right now, I would have to say that the Mets, I haven't come up with my actual picks yet, but I'm leaning Mets second, maybe even third in the NL East this year. Because of the big question mark. Because if they don't have the starting pitching and they're not dominating the starting pitching, the Mets are going to be in huge trouble. Because they're not going to have the offense. They've got a good enough offense if their pitching is elite. The very back of their bullpen is pretty darn good. The front of their bullpen's got a lot of question marks, and their offense is going to be, it looks exactly like the offense from last year, which didn't scare anybody. They've got an okay offense. I'd say it's top 15. I think you'd be pushing it to say that the Mets offense is top 12 or top 10. So they'll score some runs, but they're expecting to win low-scoring games. That's a lot of pressure to put on a guy coming over from Japan, his first year in the league. 2 40-year-old pitchers, Jose Quintana, who at this point is just an innings eater. He does not have a lot of swing and miss. I don't think that their pitching staff is better. I think it's worse than it was last year. Not by much, but it's worse, and that bullpen did not get stronger. Lane, is as far as the comment of the pitch clock, look, it's here to stay, and there's nothing anyone can say that's going to change it. It's going to bring some fans in. It's going to tick some diehard fans off. But all in all, I think it's going to be good for the game because people are going to watch. And people are going to start, once they get used to it and they get done with the newness, they're going to say, hey, I'm in and out of here in 2.5 hours, and that's pretty cool. Especially if you remember some of those Yankee Red Sox marathons from just a few years ago with all the pitching changes, et cetera, et cetera. And they were lasting 4.5 hours. And I'm talking about a random Sunday night game in the middle of May. That's gone. And that's what's going to make the game much more exciting. And they put it side by side with Pedro Baez of him pitching to one batter. It took the same amount of time as one inning. They put it side by side with the same exact time because of all his walking around and kicking dirt, et cetera, et cetera. So that to me is going to be a huge, huge deal. We got to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to hit some more of this baseball and college basketball. We'll be back in a flash. See you in 90 right here on the Key in Braves Country. Tuesday, March 7th, 6:05 Eastern, first pitch. Braves Country is bringing you Atlanta Braves, Boston Red Sox, pitch by pitch, inning by inning, from Northport, Florida at Cool Today Park. Red Sox versus Braves broadcast will begin 6 Eastern, first pitch delivered by 6:05. Catch all the action right here. Make sure to like and subscribe. Braves Country HD, youtube.com/@Braves Country for Atlanta Braves baseball all year long.
It's the best in sports and entertainment, and get locked in and locked down with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. with your host, me, Ryan O'Neal, each and every morning, right here with the best in sports and entertainment, all the way from professional sports to college sports to River Dragons hockey and everything in between, including some of the very best local and national guests. It's the Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Fridays, right here on 99.1 FM WQEE.
Enjoy sun-drenched days, epic stays, and plenty of room to roam in Greater Fort Lauderdale. Our hotels, attractions, and restaurants have taken the Visit Lauderdale's Safe and Clean pledge, so you can relax and explore with confidence. When you're ready for that well-deserved staycation, our 23 miles of golden beaches await. Find wide-open spaces to hike, bike, kayak, and paddleboard. Visit your favorite attractions, then dine out in style in dining rooms or al fresco on waterfront patios. Learn more at sunny.org.
No matter what technical data they've obtained, this station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed. It is insignificant next to the power of the Force.
Don't try to frighten us with your sorcerer's ways.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Welcome back here to Braves Country HD, wherever you stream. I'm Mac McGee. We're here weekdays 3 to 5, and we're going to take you all the way here to the top of the hour where Brian Snow is going to bring you the best in sports talk. And make sure to get your morning started off right with Rhino Radio Penitentiary, 7 to 10 a.m., noon to 2. You got the Rod Peterson Show, and 2 to 3 is Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. And then we're here back here 3 to 5. A lot of good programming here on the Key, and make sure to tune in every single day. We got a busy time of the year. You got the basketball tournaments, you've got River Dragon hockey, you've got minor league baseball coming up. We're going to have the Braves Country broadcasts as well. Atlanta Braves baseball next. Well, I say next, but today's Wednesday, so this coming Tuesday night, 6:05 Eastern, Atlanta Braves baseball. We'll have Braves versus Red Sox. Looking forward to that. See how we haven't seen them much, heard from them much, because the broadcasting thing is an absolute disaster. So we're going to try to do our best to bring you what we can. Got to get into this. The Aaron Rodgers thing. I got some clips you're not going to want to miss. Well, before we do that, I do want to hit the scoreboard real quick, because you do have some Major League Baseball games in action right now. I want to make sure everyone is caught up to speed on that. Earlier today, the Atlanta Braves and Tampa Bay Rays, they tied 3-3. Atlanta was down 3-1 and came back and tied the game in the 8th inning. Ended up, of course, there are no extra innings in spring training baseball. So 3-3 is your final score. Angels lead the Brewers 4-3. That game is in the 9th. All these games are in progress. A's over Cincinnati 4-1 in the 6th. In the 6th as well, Cubs lead the Mariners 5-2. Arizona 6-0 over San Francisco in the middle of the 7th. The Dodgers lead the Rangers 4-1. Games of interest that are already in the books. Red Sox and Astros skate to a 4-4 tie. Tigers 8-7 over the Pirates. It's a lot of runs for those two teams. And Blue Jays 2-1 over the Orioles, as well as Phillies and Twins end up in a tie. Yankees and Nats. New York Yankees have a walk-off 2-run shot. They win it 4-2, and the Mets beat the Marlins. And you never want to overreact to your spring training record, but the Marlins are starting off 1-4, and they've had a hard time scoring runs in many of those games. So I'm sure we'll probably get more of a take on this tomorrow from Steven. He'll be on the show, big Marlins guy. And I really thought they would have an outside chance to maybe make some noise, but you don't want to. I said this the other day. You don't care about having some great record in spring training, but you don't want to stumble out of it either, going 4-22. So that would be concerning. Okay, let's go ahead and get the scoreboard off the screen here and back to the rest of the story. This is Aaron Rodgers. Look, Aaron Rodgers this morning went on and talked about. Remember, he went into his dark hole, wherever he went into, some closet or whatever, and got into his feels and his thoughts. And so he came out talking about many of the things that obviously everybody wants to know. Is he going to stay in Green Bay? Is he going to retire? Is he going to ask for a trade? Now, I, for one, do not think staying in Green Bay is on the table. I believe Green Bay is ready to move on from him, and he's probably ready for a new challenge. But with that being said, where does he end up, et cetera, et cetera? All they're waiting for is an announcement, and he says it's coming, but you don't want to miss this part. This is him talking about eating a lot of salad and how it affected his, well, how his diet affected his routine. Here he goes.
I was grubbing on these big salads that they had for us, and it's probably a little out of the norm for, to eat a humongous salad like every single dinner. But yeah, my dumps were super smooth, and in my mind, now this is my own rationalization, they were all two wipers. They were two wipers and done. So there were multiple though that I didn't even think I needed a wipe.
What is he talking about? And you wonder if any of this information is going to be picked up by guys who are trying to recruit him, right? General managers of the Jets or the Raiders. There's going to be at least a handful that are going to try to recruit him. I really think it's a two-team race. You could make an argument for a third team, but I really think it's Jets or Raiders. I lean Raiders because of his familiarity with Devontae Adams, plus being so close to the West Coast if he goes there. And he's a West Coast guy. I don't know if he's a New York guy, if he can handle New York. But, man, would it be fun if he ends up with the New York Jets and have him deal with the New York Jets media on a daily basis. Here is him. Here's Aaron Rodgers talking about people thinking he's done.
Instead of trying so hard to be not just a football player, what if I just embraced I am a football player? And look at how beautiful it's impacted my life. And there's probably people that think I'm done. Thought I was done, before I became COVID MVP twice.
I don't know why, but he loves talking about how he was the COVID MVP 2 times. You'll never hear him mention the fact that he won MVP. He's always mentioning he's the COVID MVP. I don't know if it's because he refused to get the vaccination and he's still trying to hit that home, if that really means that much to him, or if it's got to do with the fact that he thinks that it was more difficult to win the MVP under those conditions. I'm not really sure, but I've noticed that he's constantly using that. All right, so now we get to the part of him talking about his decision. When's he going to make a decision? You're going to make a decision. Come on, it's enough already. Here he is.
For everybody involved, directly and indirectly, it's best for a decision earlier. And I feel really good about the conversations that are going to be had, that have been had with important people in my life, yourself included. I'm not looking for somebody to tell me what the answer is. All the answers are right inside me, and I touched definitely the feelings on both sides during the darkness, and I'm thankful.
He's still talking about that going to darkness and the feelings are inside him and 2 wipers and all. Like, what? Oh my. If this guy couldn't throw a football, he wouldn't have any friends. You know what I didn't know about him until recently, because I just don't pay attention to their personal lives. He has no contact with his immediate family. But yet at one point, I don't have time to get into the whole thing because it was a really long interview. But at one point, he's talking about how his dead relatives were touching him when he was going through this process in the darkness and whatnot, and how it made him feel close to his roots. And I'm like, so you're talking about getting close to your roots because your dead relatives are coming back from the ghosty past or whatever and touching you, but yet you won't even talk to your brother or any of your immediate family. I mean, and you know what? We've all got the one kooky dukes in our family. We all got that one person. You're like, my God, what is wrong with you? So here's the final clip where he talks about it. When he finally makes his decision, and I actually think it's going to happen in the next week and a half. I think by the timeline, it's got to. We're about 2 weeks away from free agency. They've got to make a decision. He needs to make a decision. If not, teams are going to get tired of waiting. But here's his last clip, and you can read the cryptic message if you want, but here it goes.
There's a finality to the decision. And I don't make it lightly. I don't want to drag anybody around. Look, I'm answering questions about it because I get asked about it. I'm talking about it because it's important to me. If you don't like it and you think it's drama, you think I'm being a diva or whatever, then just tune it out. This is my life. It's important to me. And I'll make a decision soon enough, and then we'll go down that road and be really excited about it.
When I hear that, the first thing I think of is A, I believe he's playing, and B, he's not coming back to Green Bay. Because when he talks about it, I'm going to be really excited about it. Now, look, you could take it to the effect of he's really excited about the next chapter of his life, excited to not be playing football anymore. He has never come across as someone who is necessarily loves playing the game. More of the fact that he takes a lot of pride of how good he is at it and how good he's been and what it's been able to afford him in his life. And there's no denying, I don't care how into the woods you are, there's no denying for Aaron Rodgers that if you weren't this good at this particular thing, throwing a ball, that you wouldn't have all these luxuries in your life. So at least he does acknowledge that. The rest, a lot of his other stuff does become sickening. But at least he does acknowledge that. But when he talks about being excited, to me, that means he's going to be excited to move on elsewhere. I don't think he's going to be a Packer. Although, if he really wants to go out and try to win a championship, his best opportunity is probably back with Green Bay. Because if you go to the Raiders, you're going to the division that houses Patrick Mahomes, the defending Super Bowl champion. Oh, by the way, they also happen to have Justin Herbert. And Sean Payton just showed up, and we'll see if he can fix Russell Wilson. I have my doubts, but if anybody can, it's Payton. If he goes to the Jets, he's going to be dealing with Josh Allen, maybe a very difficult team to deal with in the Dolphins, although there's so many question marks about that Tua situation. And Belichick gets another year to try to put something together. You can never count him out. But when it's all said and done, I believe that he's going to want to go somewhere new. But if he stays in the NFC, he's got a better chance. He's not dealing with Joe Burrow. He's not dealing with Mahomes, Josh Allen. The list goes on and on and on in the AFC. What do you got in the NFC? Brady just retired. Jalen Hurts and company, San Francisco 49er team who can't find their quarterback. If he's smart, he stays in the NFC. But he got all into his feels, so who knows? All right, we got to take off. Stay tuned for the Brian Snow Show. It's on the way. Get your morning started. The Ryan O Radio Penitentiary right here on the Key. We'll see you 3 to 5. We go live 3 to 5 every day. Have a good one, y'all. It's a great night for college baseball and college basketball.
Goodbye, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to Braves Country with Mac McGee and the Armchair Quarterbacks on 99.1 FM WQEE The Key in Noonan, Georgia, and simulcasting on youtube.com/@Braves Country. Braves Country comes your way weekdays, 3 p.m. Eastern to 5 p.m. Eastern. Please follow, like, and subscribe today. Armchair Quarterback Radio, your first choice for Southern sports.
Something of the 5th of September. Something of the 5th of September. She said a lot that I can't remember. Something of the 5th. Can I get another cigarette, please? Can I get another cigarette, please? Yeah, I know I live to regret it. Just give me another cigarette, please.
You're listening to WQEE 99.1 FM, The Key in Noonan, Georgia. Tuesday, March 7th, 6:05 Eastern, first pitch. Braves Country is bringing you Atlanta Braves, Boston Red Sox, pitch by pitch, inning by inning, from Northport, Florida at Cool Today Park. Red Sox versus Braves broadcast will begin 6 Eastern. First pitch delivered by 6:05. Catch all the action right here. Make sure to like and subscribe. Braves Country HD, youtube.com/@Braves Country for Atlanta Braves baseball all year long.